Hi guys, so this is my current eyeshadow palette collection. I just have it all in this drawer and I thought I would go through and show you what I currently have right now. I'll be the first to admit that I have an addiction and that I have way too many palettes, but I love it and I wouldn't get rid of any of these. I've given away palettes that I don't use to some of my friends, and these are what I'm left with. I think I've blabbered enough, so let's just get into my palettes. So I'm going to start off with my Too Faced palettes. This is the Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette. This is my favorite Too Faced palette right now. I've hit pan on a couple of shades, as you can see. These shadows are soft and really blendable, and I think it has a nice selection of neutrals and a couple pops of color. Alright, so the next Too Faced eyeshadow palette in my collection is the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbon palette. This is by far the cutest eyeshadow palette packaging I've ever seen. Even the pans are heart-shaped. So if you're a packaging junkie like I am, go out and look at this, swatch it, see if there's colors that you'll use because they're amazing. And the newest palette to my collection is the Sweet Peach palette. I was so excited to get this palette. I wanted it when it launched last year, but obviously if you're familiar with this palette, you know that it sold out in minutes or days of it launching, and I did not have time to get my hands on it. So on the pre-launch, I actually went and I ordered one for my sisters, and I actually got this for Christmas from my parents, so I was so excited. And also, guys, this smells like peaches. The rumors are true. Now let's move into my next set of eyeshadow palettes. I have the original Naked palette. I was actually extremely late to the bandwagon on this one, and I actually just recently got this year about, so I've only dipped into the pans a couple of times, but I do like the eyeshadow and there is a lot of great color selections in here. Alright, so this is the Naked 3. This has a lot of sentimental value to me because this is the first eyeshadow palette I ever bought, ever. So I got this on my 13th birthday, little baby me, and you can see I've hit pan on 3 shadows in here, and then there's a couple more that I'm about to hit pan on, which I'm pointing at you right now. Like most Urban Decay palettes, the shadows are amazing. The only complaint I have is that there are not enough crease colors. There are a lot of sparkly shades, but not enough mattes. This is the Naked Smoky palette, and this is my last Urban Decay eyeshadow palette from the Naked line, and this is by far my favorite palette out of all of them. There's enough mattes, there's enough shimmers, and they're all very neutral, but they're dark enough that you can make a really sultry smoky eye out of it. Out of all of them, this is the one I recommend because there's a lot of different shade groups in it. This next palette I just got in my December BoxyCharm, so I have not played with it a whole lot. I've only swatched it, but from the swatches I can tell that these are really soft eyeshadows. They're typically a lot easier for me to blend, so I have high hopes for this. And as you can see from just the shadow sting in the pan, the company pretty much replicated the Naked 3 palette, but it's the same price point. So you might as well just get the Naked 3 palette. Alright, be prepared for my dirtiest palette ever. This is the Kat Von D Shade Light Contour palette, and because it's so dark, you can totally see all of the powder splotches on it. I really like this. This was my first ever contour powder kit, or anything really, and I have hit pan on the 2 top highlighting shades, and I'm about to hit pan on the lower left contour shade. Alright guys, I was so pumped to get this palette. This is the Kathleen Lights and Morphe collaboration palette. One, packaging, amazing, but the eyeshadows inside are even better. So I've had Morphe eyeshadow before, and they were okay, but they weren't colors that I would usually use. I got the 350 palette because of the hype. And then I got, gosh, what's it called? The 35C palette because it has a lot of colors in it. And I actually really like that one. But they weren't shadows that I usually reach for. This is becoming a staple palette. And I've only had it for maybe a couple weeks. This is my first eyeshadow palette from The Balm. This is the Nude palette. And there's just a lot of really great neutrals in here, and they have a great shadow formula. I actually decided that I wanted this palette because I got a sample of one of the shadows from this palette in a subscription service, and I could not put it down. So then I told my sister that I wanted it, and she got it for me for my birthday. So I love this palette, and I think you will too. This palette is already so bright that my studio lights are kind of washing out, but this is the Jaclyn Hill Becca collaboration highlight palette, and there's 3 blushes and 2 highlights in it, and I really like the blushes, and oddly enough, I haven't been using the highlights a whole lot, but I think it's just because I already own them in a different palette. If you do get your chance to get your hands on it though, I do think you should get it just because it's a limited edition and the packaging is so gorgeous. Okay, this is the Urban Decay Moondust palette. This is basically just a palette of sparkly glitters that you can use over top other shadows. I don't use this one a whole lot, but I do use it on occasion when I do need glitters, and I really like it. They're not as pigmented as I hoped they would be, but they're enough to give you that extra bit of sparkle on your eye. This is my other Becca and Jaclyn Hill palette. This came out last year at Christmas time, and it has Champagne Pop, Rose Gold, and gosh, what's it called? Pearl, I think. And I really like Champagne Pop and Pearl. I like mixing them together. They're really gorgeous together. I believe this is my only drugstore palette, but this is the Rock Nudes by Maybelline. And I don't use this a whole lot because I think the shadows have developed hard pan, so I'm going to have to go in and like scratch off the top layer. If any of you know a different way to get rid of hard pan, let me know because I hate to scrape away so much product. But there's a lot of gorgeous jewel tone shades and a lot that you can use to create a smoky eye. This palette is the Masquerade palette by Juvia's Place, and I decided to get this after Kathleen Lights did a tutorial with it that was really amazing. And I didn't want to get the full palette, so this is actually the mini version of it, which is still, oddly enough, a normal size palette. I can't imagine how huge the normal version of this is. So this palette is the Christmas in New York palette from Too Faced. You might have seen this if you watched my unboxing / review / first impressions, and if you did, you'll know that I really like this palette, and I only had problems with one shadow in this entire kit. And if you can find it somewhere, although Christmas is over, I recommend that you do, because there's a lot of amazing neutrals, and at the bottom you can see they have a blue, pink, and a purple shade. Next is the ever so popular Anastasia Glow Kit. So this is in, I think, Sun Dipped. I think that's the one I have. I used to have Gleam, but then my mom wanted it, so I gave it to her, and then I got this one instead. These are the best highlighters ever. They go on like a cream, which is really weird. Like, they're not a cream, they're a powder, but they're so soft that they feel like a cream. Definitely recommend. This is the Urban Decay Vice 4 palette. This is one of the prettiest palettes I have ever bought in terms of the packaging and the shadows themselves. Urban Decay said that their inspiration for this was like an oil slick sort of thing, and I think they totally nailed it. This is the palette that really got me into blush. This is the Tarte Blush palette. And inside they just have 4 of their Amazonian clay blushes, and these are by far the best blushes I've ever used. They go on naturally enough so that you don't look like you're a clown, but they're still pigmented enough where that you can see the blush on your face, and it's amazing. Again, I have another blush palette. I actually got this for Christmas as well from my other sister, Rachel, and this is the Sweet Peach Glow Kit. Inside there's a highlighter, a blush topper, and then a bronzer. These are so gorgeous. Now, I've seen a lot of complaints about the blush topper, and that's because people are expecting it to be a full-blown blush, when in fact this is just a blush topper. I have here the Morphe 35C palette. This is by far one of the brightest palettes I have in my collection. As you'll see once I show you the inside, this is full of a bajillion neon bright colors. And I don't use these a whole lot, but when I need a color, this is where I go to. This is the 350S palette, and by far my dirtiest palette yet. This is a palette full of shimmery, warm tone, and I like it for when I want to do that type of look, but otherwise I don't pick it up a whole lot. Alright guys, here's my final palette. This is a concealer palette from Fred Meyer. I'm not quite sure what the brand is, but it's just full of a bunch of color correcting concealers and then just normal skin tone concealers. It also comes with a couple sponges and some miniature brushes. I used this a lot when I first got it, but now I only use it when I'm doing makeup on other people, which is when it comes in handy. Well guys, that is the end of my eyeshadow palette collection. If you guys want to see any more of my makeup, like my lipstick, foundation, primers, any of that sort of thing, leave me a comment down below, and also let me know if you want a swatch video of any of these palettes, because I think that'd be really fun to do. If you're not already, please subscribe, like this video, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!